Eric, have you already connected with SkyTel, the Wi-Fi?
I have.
Okay. You know, so you want to put it on the table here?
Yeah, could you just put it next to...
Sure. That must be good to the Dell.
If not, I have it on, I have my presentation on my, that's...
Here it comes. All right, there's your desktop. So where's your presentation?
Yes, I self-published maybe a dozen years ago, and then I podcasted. I sort of did it exactly the opposite way of most but
So, is it science fiction or horror?
it's a vampire movie.
We have to say that these days, don't we?
Yeah,
It's
you
not
better call it, but it's not Twilight.
So, do you do anything special to sort of promote it? Like, are there podcasts for people who like romance, thriller novels?
Absolutely.
Do you get views from those?
Well, since it's
Because
vampires,
sometimes you never know for 10 people listening.
when it comes to podcasts, I don't even do it for numbers because I know there's no good number of it. But I do get a note from Amazon when I did not that much, but that is an indicator of how the book sells. And same with Smashwords, that. But what I do is I'm on social media networks everywhere. I have my own podcast where I talk about vampires, so that's a side version. I don't go out there and promote my novel and talk about what I love. But I'm looking at vampires and just podcast.
Okay, so sort of like that one.
Yeah.
Because I was, you know, in a traditional college, they'd send you out to, well, they would send you, but you call your interview programs.
Right. Well, and I do interviews too, and I work with another podcast called Horror Addicts. So that encourages people who are in the horror genre that they like vampires that they'll check out. But yeah, I interview people on my podcast, so their fans listen to my podcast.
And then they return to review, and then there are review sites that select.
Right, and I've done that too. I've simply listed out, but you know what? I'd rather have the Amazon or word of mouth. I find a lot of people aren't, unless they're familiar with that blog.
Yeah, unless they're fans of that podcast.
There's no one.
They realize they made a massive mistake.
So I wonder, will the pad let you, if you advance on the pad, will it advance on the screen? No, okay. Then I will sit here.
So I think it was pick a space, whatever, because I got it.
It is. It's
Okay, we're gonna go back.
It's not.
Alrighty, and then we have, is it 45 minutes? Is that the timing? Have you got to watch, or you want me to flip over my watch on my?
The only thing is I was expecting that we'd have audio.
Oh, well, if we plug this into your audio, would that work?
I'll do it.
Okay. Well, that's got tangled. So, into all 3 ports? No, into all 2 ports. And then these 2. Okay. Well, let's see what we got. Oh, because you want to show some of the other, the videos.
Yeah.
Watch the time. much in the 21st century.
That's right, I don't.
No, right?
Correct. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Schedeler. I'm going to be leading the conversation on crowdfunding. And this is your 12-step program into crowdfunding or out of it. Okay, depending on how you look at it. How many people here have experienced crowdfunding either as a Kickstarter project or an equity financing? And were you a creator of a project?
I've supported a couple projects. I've tried
Supporting?
to submit it, but it never went through on Kickstarter, so.
Okay. Who else?
Supported you.
Supported a few? Yeah, so there's a lot of noise about what crowdfunding is. And some of it we're going to go through today, distinguish it a little bit. With the Jobs Act, there's been some transitions too for equity-based crowdfunding. We'll touch on that a little bit. We'll look at what's working, what's not working, and the 12-step program and having a successful crowdfunding event. And then any questions or that you may have. But there's some key ingredients, and I'm glad Izzy's here because video is one of the biggest components. So we'll let you chime in there. Go ahead. But first things first, a disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't give legal advice because there are some legal issues around crowdfunding, and I don't own or operate a crowdfunding site. I've been involved probably over the last year and a half in affecting some of the crowdfunding legislation and supporting groups, and I'm kind of a nomad. I don't belong to anybody other than I am a member of the Crowdfunding Industry Professionals Association. So let's go ahead. So what is crowdfunding? Well, we've all experienced it a little bit if you participated in a Kickstarter campaign or anything like that, but we just had the election of a president, right? Did anybody donate to either candidate? Yeah. So at the end of this, if you haven't experienced crowdfunding, we will pass a cup. But really, it's an opportunity for any nonprofit or business venture to raise money from people they know, their social networks, and for whatever the cause is. But the most popular right now is cause-based crowdfunding. And cause can be your cause. You have your own crowd, you have what you're up to in life, and you're the producer. You get to create and expand on what it is you want to contribute to the world. Next slide. So who's the crowd? Your friends, your family acquaintances, and strangers. Good. And why do they fund you? Real simple, they like you, for the most part. Friends, family, they like your story, or you got cool rewards. Okay. So the basics, there's actually 4 models to crowdfunding. The first one is reward-based, meaning that by donating your project, them contributing to your project, you're going to give them some sort of incentive or reward. The other is donation-based, where it's just, like a political campaign. It's something, some building, some cause that you want to contribute to. The third area is equity-based, where you're selling a portion of your company, idea, revenue stream, that type of thing. And there's lending-based, which hasn't been talked about a lot. There's a really cool site called Somo Lend, where you can go in, and actually they work with the banks in creating SBA loans, but a lot of times if you take out a loan, you're going to need, like 25%. And what they do is the bank operates as controlling the money for your friends and family. And you make payments to the bank, they pay the project. So it makes that you don't have awkward Thanksgiving dinners, from your friends and family, and then they grant an SBA loan on top of that. And that's an area to watch for if you're interested in going into debt. But most of the ones that we're familiar with are crowdfunding platforms like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Rocket Hub. I'm going to the next slide. But here's some numbers. The platforms are exploding. There's 452 worldwide in April, and it's expected to be close to 600 by the end of the year. So it's growing at a real, just platform space at 60% rate. Well, what's happening is it's going very vertical. Areas that you might be really interested in beyond just Kickstarter campaigns, and we'll show a couple of those as we move along. Some more numbers, though, is the worldwide funding for crowdfunding was about $1.5 billion in 2011, and the estimate is $2.8 billion in 2012. So there's a lot of money going into the. This is a little bit tricky, having a 300% growth in equity-based and reward-based, because it's primarily reward-based funding that's driving that number. So the good news, crowdfunding for equity is already here. You know, they passed the Jobs Act, and that really relates to companies trying to get crowdfunded from non-accredited investors so that everybody can pitch without violating the securities laws. Well, the good news, if you're playing by the current rules, there are investment firms and brokerage firms that will raise money on their platforms as long as you're compliant with the current rules, which means you have an offering memorandum and it's distributed to accredited investors. The bad news right now is we've had a Jobs Act. In April it was approved. The SEC is in a review of a lot of the rules right now. And the real bad news is the people that are making the rules are the ones that oppose crowdfunding. Okay. So we don't expect comments until the end of the year, and they won't even start making the rules for equity-based crowdfunding until sometime next year. So my opinion is likely to be a 2014 headline. Don't expect much next year. So on the equity side of things, if you have an interest in your company that you want to fund and you want to exchange shares for it, the framework is already working. AngelList has raised over $1.3 billion on their platform. They're out of Silicon Valley. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it's a whole basket of accredited investors that you can post your product idea, get sponsors, build a crowd, and at least raise interest. Gust is actually a platform for angel investors to go review deals nationally. Microventures, Early Shares, Circle Up, those are all investment banking portals. For instance, I just placed one with Microventures. They funded $600,000 in about 48 hours through their crowd. You have Organized Angels Group, two of them here in the Valley that you can still accomplish gathering a small crowd of angels. And then there's a new local platform, broker-dealer called Confident Crowd that is managed by Dinan & Company, which is a local investment banker. So the Jobs Act update. Today, you can't solicit or have general advertising for your offering. This is probably going to be the thing that changes most between now and the end of the year. They're going to permit general solicitation of accredited investors only. And if you don't know what accredited investors are, those are people that generally make over $300,000 a year or have $1 million net worth. So if they're in your network, you'll be able to solicit them if you're raising money for equity. If they're not in your network, go find some, because you can build a strong base by 2014. They'll sell equity in your idea or a revenue share. So the Jobs Act promise was startups for everyone. So a new crowdfunding exemption for accredited investors, but it's not available until they implement the rules. Because I just wanted, the space is really, really noisy on what you can do, can't do, and anything like that. So that's like advice I can give you. It's not legal advice. Just stay tuned, because the rules are going to be made. So, whole intent was for economic development and make startup investing accessible to the public. And why this is important, the impact is if people took their fixed assets or assets that they hold in long-term investments and move 1% of them, it would be 10 times the venture capital that's been invested since 2011. So the intention is to free up a lot of capital and make it available for small business where the jobs are created. So let's talk about Kickstarter, because this is probably the one most of us are familiar with. And just, you know, their big claim to fame was the Pebble e-watch. People hear about that?
That's awesome. I'm waiting for mine.
Are you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in May, I got a chance to talk with Eric at Pebble. And it was just, he had just completed his campaign and hadn't received his money. And we were at a crowdfunding conference. And I said, so are you going to be at the conference tomorrow? And he said, no, I'm actually leaving for China to go get it built. And I said, you know, that's a really good answer for somebody that's getting $10 million. So they've been delayed, and they've gotten some criticism because it was due, I think, what, September?
Yes.
And I think they've managed all of that quite well. So, you know, those are part of the things we're going to talk about in the 12-step program and having a great campaign that works. But they're kind of the Kickstarter poster child right now on a successful raise. But Kickstarter, you can see the numbers, 381 million in pledges, almost 75,000 launch projects, and about a 43% success rate. Okay. Now, they're making some rule changes, and their vision is to back creative products, not company creation. It's an important thing to know. So they're putting some new guidelines in. If you're making a product, you've got to reveal some of the risks and challenges that you're going to have. You're going to have prototypes. You're going to have manufacturing plans, because they get a, you know, I think they want to manage the integrity of the platform. That, you know, when you put money there, it consists of people that do things that they say they're going to do. But some of the untold stories about Kickstarter I wanted to reveal. I found this on AppLogger, and it's a great infographic. And according to Kickstarter, 44% of projects are successfully funded. But that doesn't tell you where the project creators actually delivered. Now, I'm not saying that there was fraud, it's just when you fail big. And 9 out of 10 failed products did not reach the 30% funding goal. And then 97 of the failed products did not reach even 50%. And when you do succeed, it's only by a small margin. 1 out of 4 successful projects raise 3% or less of their funding goal. And 2 out of 4 successful projects raise only 10% of their funding goal. So the average failed project received $900 versus a successful project of $7,800. And right now, kind of the sweet spot is between $10,000 and $20,000 at Kickstarter. Beyond that, you probably should look at some sort of equity financing or something like that. Okay. But here's the category of what we'll call the overachievers. Large projects in these categories have raised over 10 times their goal in hardware, in software, gaming, and in product design. And here are the variables and the successes. So you can see here, when they have a goal size very large, their likelihood of success diminishes. The more you want to raise, that makes sense, right? The rewards level, more rewards, more likelihood of success. The duration, the longer it is, the less effective it is, because your social networks get really tired of you. And your Facebook friends, the stronger number you have in your crowd, the more likely you're to succeed. You know, if you only have 2 friends that follow you on Facebook, you know, I wouldn't recommend crowdfunding unless they're Bill Gates and who's in
Zuckerberg?
Zuckerberg would be a good one, yeah. So the signals of quality we'll talk more about, but those signals are that you have people that support you, the project can be fulfilled on, and we'll get into what happens when you get featured on Kickstarter, because that's when they actually earn their money. Because until you achieve about 30% of your funding goal, you're not going to hit their radar as far as them featuring you. And it's a critical component of having, you know, going into it, looking at your social network and seeing if you can actually accomplish that goal at the 30% rate. And video is pretty much required. I just attended Izzy's video class and was inspired by it, but you'll see here in a moment, we'll take you into some local projects and you be the judge if they're in the criteria. So the chance of success on large projects, the main thing is $10,000 projects have a 38%, $50,000 has an 18%, and $100,000 projects have a 7%. So the two most powerful things are your social networks and being featured in Kickstarter. So where are the Kickstarters? The reason I show you this is because it pretty much goes where the interests are. For instance, if you're in movies and music, Los Angeles, that community kind of supports itself that way. So when they hear a cool project, they're more likely to contribute. Nashville, you can see it's music. New York, movies and music. Chicago. And next slide. So do creators deliver on their promise? Only 25% of the projects deliver on time. And the more you raise, the more likelihood there's going to be a delay. Now you would think that money solves all those problems, and it doesn't. It creates new ones. So when you're overfunded, is it a blessing or a curse? So you have those two dilemmas. Cross the finish line. Now you got to get to work and you come up with problems that you would in the project, or B, what's taking so long? How come it's not happening? This is to represent cities and categories. So the categories are art, comics, you can read them up here. And these are the cities where they're getting those types of pledges. And you can see it maps to the other map, predominantly film. The Bay Area is more gaming. Phoenix is pretty mixed. Go to the next slide. But this is where success is happening also. You can see that there's a larger percentage in the major metropolitan areas where they build their own crowds, where they're actually being successfully funded. So that's the failure and the success rates in this shaded. So if you want to research platforms that you should be on, because most people go to Kickstarter first, and yet some of the smaller platforms differ in vertical markets and can be better suited for you. So there's lots of platforms, and there's some local ones too that I want to introduce you to. But other than Kickstarter, the most traffic sites are Indiegogo, Rocket Hub, Fundable, Get Funded. There's some green projects, and I'll introduce you, if you haven't heard about it, Propel Arizona, which is a local crowdfunding platform that launched last week. And a little bit about them. It was introduced by an ASU professor who is in their entrepreneurial studies and behavioral studies. And you can go ahead, why I'm showing this is because you can go in and be a featured member and actually start making a contribution, to the community by your thoughts, your ideas, willing to look at their sites and projects. Let's go to the next one. But what I like is you can browse by affiliation too, and this is something you can catch companies coming out of the incubators if you're an investor, or placing ideas, or if you work at one of the co-location facilities like Gangplay. But you can see they've recently started, and you don't have to be qualified like for equity funding, or it is a donation-based and rewards-based platform currently. But CJ has put together a group of angel groups and stuff like that, so the whole notion of crowdfunding that investors want to see is their market validation. And with that, sometimes it takes a lot less money to go get one customer and prove that it works in the marketplace, and it's easier to raise money. So let's say you've chosen a platform, you set up your account, and this is your 12-step program to have it be successful. So you create your funding project. In each one of the platforms, you have to categorize it, and that way it's easy for you to be found in their search results, And then you create your project tagline. And your project tagline and your teaser text in most platforms track not only in search, but what oftentimes people do is they put the company name in there. And it doesn't really describe what it does, and it doesn't get as much traction or results. So you got to create a story. I tell people you're a story with data. Just share both, you know, and you're going to be fine. So you create your teaser text, and then you have to create a text project summary. And on Kickstarter, these are really important to nail. So this is like your elevator pitch, but it tracks on the widget too. So you can have people take this and put it on their website. You can put it on your website, but it's really fundamentally important. So determining the right fundraising amount. What you need to do is kind of do the math when you look at rewards. And if you've been on Kickstarter, you'll see a list of rewards, and you can go from $1 donation, you know, up to I think $10,000 is their top one. The important thing is you want to do the math to kind of see, okay, I need to have 50 at this rate, 100 at this rate, 5,000 at this rate, but I don't recommend you do things, you know, like $1 donation, that type of thing. You know, have them donate and give them a reward. And then determine the right fundraising time. Remember, shorter is better because you're dealing with your own social networks generally. Kickstarter, for example, will let you go 90 days. Most things are funded in 30 or less if you're being successful. I think Indiegogo might have a program where you can go 15 days. But really determine the right amount of time. And then one of the hardest things is developing your list of rewards. And we'll go through a couple of websites here locally to have you see, and you judge, you know, what some of the rewards are. And then create your project visuals and video. And that's no understatement. This is what gets the projects done. And if you're not familiar with video, talk to Izzy, he is. But it doesn't have to be these long, elaborate productions. And you know, so I think there are a lot of myths about video and creating one. First, I think for most people, getting in front of a camera is second to public speaking, and you know, one of the biggest fears. They really just aren't comfortable with it. But generally, the type of video that works in crowdfunding platforms is when you're just having an open dialogue. People do business with people they know, and they're looking for getting to know you and the authenticity. So something that has major production value. If you're funding a film, I highly recommend that. Okay. But if you have a creative project that you want to get off the ground, there are a lot of ways to produce video on the cheap that looks good, and there's a lot of tools available. A lot of them, there's a lot of iPhone accessories. The thing I recommend most, though, is have great audio if you're going to shoot video from an iPhone or something other than that. Izzy, do you have any recommendations on shooting video for?
My biggest recommendation would be to not actually shoot the video yourself, but to partner with someone who already has that skill set. And if you offer them some sort of stake in the project, you might be able to convince them to actually do the work for you. That way you don't have to pay for it, but you do get high quality results. So that might be one option. And there's just so many different people. You can even post it on Craigslist that you're looking for a video shooter, and you'll get bombarded with people that want to do it for free.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to build their portfolio, or they're interested in your project, or you can find, it's probably easier than learning your skill set yourself. And I'm going against myself because I actually show people how to shoot and edit video. It's like something I train on. But I'm saying that unless it's something you're really interested in, it might be better off to get somebody else involved. So, I don't know, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah. And then, you know, creating the project visuals also, you know, going to iStock photos and some of the other, I mean, just get really clean pictures. And if you have a facility, make sure it gets shot either in video or in stills, so people really get a sense of, you know, what's going on. The next one, get your nomad engaged, and those are nominated advisors and associates. Birds of a feather flock together. If you're getting recommendations from other people, it adds a lot to your campaign, and you really need to nurture them up front. They can be people in your social network, people in LinkedIn, people in Facebook. But, you know, those are the influencers that when they say something, other people take a look at. And you really want to get them engaged early on. You know, a lot of people, we recommend that they have a pre-launch party to Kickstarter. Kickstarter isn't the beginning, it's actually the end of a very long process to have it be successful. And then promote your project in your network. In promoting your project, meaning giving status reports, promoting your project and say, hey, we're just starting this, join us. You can give updates, or we've made these achievements. But you need to do it almost on a weekly basis when you're in a campaign. Letting people know where you're at and promoting it in your network. And then maintain and update your project. Well, I touched on that, but there's some automated systems now. You know, Infusionsoft, you can tie in video, you can do some pre-planning, notes that you send out on a weekly basis, how to get your community engaged that you can actually automate, because the people at the Pebble Watch, he told me they launched their campaign, the biggest breakdown was they had 8,000 inquiries a day. And they had a company of 8 people.
Yeah.
So they had to hire an outside agency just to manage the communication for a while until they could figure it out. But it caught them by surprise because they were only looking for $10,000. Excuse me, and then they raised it to $100,000. And then they ended with $10 million. So let's look at some local projects. This is a website that I recommend called The Things We Start. Go ahead and see if we're connected. And I guess not.
So you're still connected, right? Oh, no, you're not connected. No. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna go and check my email and stuff. That'd be
There you go.
What did you say that company was, or that program was that you were describing that had the 8,000, what was it called?
No, I was Pebble Watch.
Pebble.
Yeah, it's Get Pebble Watch. You can go in and see their updates, how they've managed their campaign. So this is kind of a map of what's going on Kickstarter and some of the hot projects. And I like the view of it because you can go in locally. I don't know if you can see some of the numbers here. You can go ahead and push that off. But you can go in and let's go into, let's click on Phoenix. So, and it'll rescale over here. So you can see what's going on globally. And, take a look at the campaign, why it's hot, who's participating. But so here's the Kickstarter projects that are going on right now. So let's just click on the evil control word. So they've exceeded their goal. They've raised $18,000 on a raise of $15,000. I don't think we're going to have audio though. Go ahead and click on it. Oh, that's right, we did that. Anybody familiar with these guys?
Yeah. You can coach?
Yeah.
I helped them during their last year's Christmas rush. They're a small little company, but make awesome stuff.
All right, so your audio is working. It's the facilities audio.
Okay.
Anybody have any ideas? No?
Maybe just unplug it and let it play on the computer.
I'm fine with the controller. With the last of my student loan money and started modifying the controller, selling it to friends and family and whatnot. The response was remarkable, so I went ahead and left school, and that's when Evil Controller started. The biggest impact I've had on the gaming industry has to be the Evil D-pad. It was actually addressed as the second best product of gaming by Inc. magazine in 2010. After the positive feedback from the Evil D-pad, I knew I wasn't done with the controller. Gaming in general it's so expensive, from buying the controllers, the consoles, and even the games. The batteries are kind of just the icing on the cake. It's not really needed. This day and age, something that can be designed around. Nothing is more frustrating than having a wireless controller and batteries dying and you have to make it wired. It's useless. It's why be wireless. Supplying the controller with batteries that die within 5 to 8 hours or can last maybe just a few days, it's very frustrating, as you all know. The lithium-ion battery is a huge benefit because you won't need to actually recharge the battery for weeks, if not months. It can sit there for 3 weeks and still keep the same charge. The 360 controller battery pack design is really not ergonomic whatsoever. It causes your fingers to cramp up and hold the controller uncomfortably. It's as if they took the wired controller and just threw a big battery pack in the middle of it. This is basically
Click on their
the
Kickstarter
effect
page.
of having an engineer design something.
Over here?
It's up higher than
So let's try to get over to their rewards. So you can see they've updated twice. They had a number of backers there, likes, but they did a really good job on the description.
And are there rewards at the bottom of the page?
They're actually supposed to be at the side.
At the side, oh, sorry.
Do you happen to know their story specifically by chance, or?
Oh, they,
I'm wondering why they wouldn't just pay for it up front. Why do they raise the money for it?
Because he was a college kid.
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
but my understanding is he's been selling these already, or no?
My guess is probably one of the rewards is, buy a controller, donate $50 to get a controller. That's what Pebble.
They're pre-selling, and that's one of the key components of success stories, is if you're pre-selling a tangible product.
Yeah, there you go. Pre-order kit.
Okay.
And actually, there's been stories where certain companies launch their product and they actually have their Kickstarter campaign almost pre-funded and use it to drive publicity.
Didn't you show something earlier though that said that Kickstarter is changing those rules as of September 20th?
That's why, yeah.
So you can't really do this kind of thing anymore on that.
Well, you can, under those caveats that you have your production plan and
Okay.
they do a little more due diligence now in those types of projects. Let's go back to,
back to the PowerPoint?
yeah. But the other thing I want to, now this applies to equity crowdfunding, but all crowdfunding is there's a whole new ecosystem developing of products and services that you can have to service this industry. Whether you're a writer, copywriter, if you're video or audio, if you're a good storyteller, if you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, get familiar with what's going on in this community because it's wide open and people need these services. I mentor several companies out of Silicon Valley, so I'm more on the equity investment side of things and keeping track of that. But there's from advisors to services, it's a whole new playground. And I invite you to start participating and play. We're going to be go ahead and click the next one. Developing some workshops where you learn to craft and pitch your ideas. And this is going to be at Gangplank in Schedeler. So if you'd like to know more about it or participate, feel free to let us know how to run your campaign. Because what we really want to do is create a community that's successfully crowdfunding. That's one of the, having successful small companies is one of the biggest things that we can do for the community. Next. So
Is there a date set for that?
we're looking at the last Saturday of this month. There may be another one in February, but if you let us know, we'll let you know. We're trying to finalize it over the weekend. But if you'd like to participate, like you're a service provider, I do, and you want to get involved in the crowdfunding area, I recommend you go launch a profile at Propel, Arizona, because that's kind of the gathering point for a lot of these companies. And typically the companies are those that have come out of like startup weekends, or they may be some creative projects. I for one would like to see art projects and film projects and that type of thing that we can build community around. So feel free to give me a call, text, if you're interested in any of those, we'll put you in there, or you can text me at Gangplank. I'm usually there Tuesdays through Thursdays from 10 to 2. And we're trying to build that, as I say, build that community and launch some successful companies. So anybody have any questions, comments? Yeah.
I handle the cyberspace end of Arizona Center for Germanic Cultures.
Okay.
We have a few events already where we're trying to build a cultural center for Germanic peoples. And I've been thinking for a while that some sort of crowdfunding thing might help us along. I don't know. Like I handle cyberspace. I have no idea what dollar figures that they're looking at for getting a piece of land or building something on it. I'm inclined to think it's going to be more than the sweet spot on the money scale for like.
Well, that brings up a really good point though, because if you chunk it down and say what these dollars will provide, you don't have to go for the funding of the whole project.
Right.
You just got to tell what it will provide. So if it's about, hey, we're going to raise $10,000 to do this, this, and this, and it helps us towards our bigger vision, people don't have a problem with that. But it's also, you got to keep in mind, people don't want, if you come up, if your creative project is, we're going to have I'm going to be the manned spacecraft going to Mars, and all I need is, can you supply, a cup of gas? They're not really likely to do it because you're not going to get very far. So, but if you chunk it down and says, okay, well, tell the truth, and this is where it will get us, your chances go up considerably. And you can run multiple campaigns. You can close that campaign.
Start running one campaign and maybe
for
buy
this.
the piece of land, and then
once
that's there,
then do
start
what's
working
next.
on the bricks and mortar.
Yeah, highly recommend that.
That happened recently. There's a guy, Matthew Inman, he runs the Oatmeal.
Yeah.
And he raised the money to buy the Tesla building it's in New York.
Oh yeah?
Museum.
Yeah, and they want to make it a museum, but they just need to buy the land. So they ended up raising a ton of money, well over what they wanted.
Yeah.
So if you just say, well, we want enough to say get the land, you start with that and work on
Are
that.
they still working on that project?
It's
If
already.
you go to URL,
I'll find
throw
it.
some money at anything with the name Tesla on it.
Yeah.
Look up
Anybody write that down?
Kickstarter or Kickstarter Tesla Museum or
It was on Indiegogo.
Indiegogo.
The Oatmeal was also on NPR during an interview, so you should find that way.
If anybody's interested in new energy stuff, there is a conference happening in Amsterdam this weekend. A friend of mine is one of the hosts of it. It's online. It's $20 to watch it all weekend. It's called Global Breakthrough Energy Conference in Amsterdam. If you're interested in that subject.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear, yeah, go ahead.
I have something I'd like to get produced because people I show my little prototypes love it. I have a couch potato. I have a brand of books that I started writing and I self-published. And my little couch potato guy is very appealing. Everybody loves him, but I can't afford to produce it in the U.S. at a price point that people will be willing to pay for it. So I've been told by somebody, get over it, go to China. So is that a likely project that a Kickstarter or some kind of thing would fund me producing? And part of the thing is that you've got to get it safety checked so that you have a little tag in the item that shows it's safe. So it becomes a pretty expensive proposition. Is something like that a sort of thing that might get produced? Because I can give, things away as rewards plus my various books, so I've got built-in rewards available.
Yeah, I mean, there are all types of projects.
So that could be
But
something.
here, the truth of it is, it's your social network that launches it.
Okay.
It isn't Kickstarter. They come in the back end and promote you a little bit. And, so if you have a strong social network, customers, if you're doing business or fans, or you can go get them, then by all means. But here's the thing, what do you got to lose? Launch your dreams. That's what it's about. Enroll people in your ideas. And the biggest, obstacle in crowdfunding is just starting. It isn't about trying to figure it all out. Get a team together, and that's what we're trying to do is create some of the resources in the community. So it makes it easier, because I'm not a confident writer, okay? I'd really like writing it. I'm not very good at video, okay? But I've got a pretty strong social network. Okay? And some people buy and do things I do, you know? But I haven't launched anything yet. I am working on, with a gal who was at Schedeler's Startup Weekend. She's one of the finalists, and she's launching a commercial kitchen. And she got seeded as a result of participating in the Startup Weekend. And she's going to the next level to crowdfunding, but she's already open. So that makes a different story for crowdfunding when you're open versus I have this idea about this. So, and she's got customers. So, you know, if, but I'd like to know, I mean, what's back there? What are some projects that you're, like, what are you working on? You know, if you want to share it, you know, this is a crowd.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Reminds us, what is the general cut that these
Well, that's a good
Kickstarter and
question.
others take, and generally how long does it take to get approval to for a project?
Propellers, I'm not sure what they charge. Most of them charge standard rates around 6%, plus processing fees, okay, which are generally separate. They use a separate, you know, PayPal or whatever you want to use. There are some big differences, though, in the platforms. For instance, Kickstarter's an all or none platform. Indiegogo is you get what you raise. And, you know, there's kind of mixed confidence with donors. If, like I said, if you're getting underfueled, they like to know that, you know, they can pledge and know that it's going to be fulfilled on. But generally, you're looking at about 6% of the flat rate, plus the processing fee. Now, there's some, Rocket Hub, for example, if you hit, their program's different in that I think you get what you keep. If you hit your goal, they reduce it to 3% on successful projects.
Indiegogo doesn't.
Do they? So there's a lot of a lot of them are changing rules, and you know, I'm trying to go more vertical. For instance, there's one I really recommend, you know, to foodies, if you got food products, called Circle Up, because they use it as a seed platform. They're investment bankers that take companies in to major consumer brands. So not only do they help you with a platform on a raise, but then they see you grow, give market validation, give you more money, and then take you for bigger distribution. And I think that's going to be more of the trend in the future, that they add more value than just being a portal for you to bring your social network.
And it's given 4 to 6%.
4 to 6%, yeah.
Did Kickstarter actually raise it, or is it still 4%? Because I know it used to be 4%.
I think it's I mean, it may be 4. I don't know. I'll have to go to look. You can just publish in the rule. 3 minutes. Any other question? Any other projects? Yeah.
What about stretch goals? I mean, I don't know if you've seen Project Eternity. That was a game-funded project that went. I think they wanted 1.3 million, and they ended up getting 4.1 because of stretch goals.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. So when you exceed your amount, what do you do? Well, obviously, most people take the money, right? They let it continue to go. And you can do that as long as you update people on what you're going to do with the extra money. So it's really, you know, really simple. Just tell the truth. Keep people updated. Stay in communication, and they'll, you know, they'll continue to either fund you or add more. There's been a couple campaigns where there's been donation by 2 or 3 people. You know, 2 or 3 times they donated to something just because they like it even more. You know. So.
And 48 West, 48-west.com.
Yeah.
We're putting together a workshop for people who want to put together a crowdfunding campaign.
And that the date of that is?
It's February 2013, 15th through the 16th. So that's President's Day weekend. The URL is 48-west.com because we are the 48th state. It's part of a larger festival that's sort of like our version of South by Southwest. And it's President's Day weekend in February 2013, so that's the 15th through the 16th.
Okay, anything else? Well, thanks. Thank you so much.
much for.
Oh, sure, I'm just happy that I was actually able to solve something. Otherwise I just sit there and look at it and say, oh.
Thank you very much. And I do want to be on your list about the Gangplank. This is my website and my goodies and all that stuff. I have 2 books. I have transfer several books, and one thing that I'm going to be working on, and I have a chef already willing to collaborate, is cooking for the couch potato. So my brand is various things for the couch potato.
You know, when you mentioned that, did you remember that article I gave you from some months ago? The local edition of their Chandler Republic
Yeah.
covered a guy who actually went through successful Indiegogo
Oh,
because
okay.
he wrote a series of books and had a doll that he needed to have produced.
Okay. See, I have
But
my
I
little
can't
couch
remember his
potato.
name.
I do remember that.
But
Okay, I can
they were
look it up.
called
I
Daddy
actually,
books,
I actually
something like
write for
that.
the Arizona Republic and sometimes get, just the last 2 months I've been, plus I write for a local newspaper.
Oh, and so you know how sometimes those local
Yes.
editions, they don't put a link up? So
Right.
I'm sorry about that, but I
That's
think I
okay.
Yeah.
gave you a
You
copy
can
of
do a
the
search
article.
online sometimes though.
Yeah.
I mean, I search on my name to see if they put up recent articles so I
Right.
can invoice them. So
Good.
I'm freelancing, yeah, otherwise, I never get paid.
But no,
But yeah, I would very much like to find out, because my little couch potato, I've gotten it copyrighted, and it's 12 inches, and it's cute, and I had a woman beg me, I said, I'm not legitimately allowed to sell them, because I don't have the safety tag. I mean, all the components came from a fabric
So
store,
they're
but
not
they
a
still.
toy, they're a craft,
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
I see what you, yeah, so they're
I don't
an
know,
object of art rather than like a certified toy.
Yeah, and it's really meant for adults, but I made sure that the eyes are sewn, they're not buttons that a kid can swallow. But
Make
I
sure
would
you
love
get
to
the
go to
word.
that
You
workshop.
should come
yeah.
to our craft hack at Gangplank because we talk business of how to take, something that you love up to sort of, make a business.
Let me
something.
get
Can I
you,
have a card?
yes, I'll be glad to get you some more.
I think you do
I want to know.
as far as people contributing something as far as developing being part of that. Like we talked about how to develop, a story that emotionally transports people and
We
connects
just
them.
actually.
I was talking with
CJ
for now yesterday. He wants.
The same editor.
yeah, I'm gonna go register on site. I spent like an evening reading through all of that on the site, looking at the projects and so I didn't
And,
register.
it was in Wednesday's TechPHX.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, and I have some material for that. I've been studying that recently myself, just because it's, this interests me to figure out how do I make something really work. But it was helpful for me to understand putting a team together of people. So, yeah, and then advisors and other stuff, so, okay, so I started making a list of, for my show, and who's all
Yes.
the team and then my advisors. So it's like doing a little bit of a business.
Because it's overwhelming.
So I think
And the other
it's
thing
one of
is
those
that
things like,
people
oh,
shared with me
great.
that
We thought this was a great relationship
and actually I wanted to, when I called Jeff, I wanted to do
I think some of it is their budgets are cut so severely. The reason I got hired, I had, that I've been going to every year or two
Yeah,
asking.
having
But I wanted
a
to
radio show that's about
8 years.
the new
I've gotten
kind
a
of
state journalism
the
award.
new business,
I mean, I'm a good
because
writer.
crowdfunding is coming in. We can talk about other things too. All right, well, let me wrap my head
You're
around
ready,
it.
Hank?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
sit down.
That's what I call it.
Let's sit down and work that out. Because, Jeff is, he's a
Well,
businessman, he's not a producer. Right. He thinks he is, but
I
he's
got
not.
hired
Okay,
because.
neither is
Back then I was willing to pay.
neither
I just wanted a better rate
His
than
phone
the
message said,
retail.
while I'm away,
We've got the
So I talked
empowerment
to
channel, I think,
managers,
in empowering
going
new
to
business, because the whole focus is now is creating jobs.
Chapel
So I think if we create a radio show about
is the editor
crowdfunding and have
of
those conversations,
Chandler,
that could be
and
huge
two
nationally.
sections. So we got chatting, and he said, oh, okay, you're a great writer. We won an award, that got his
I knew I had
attention.
to.
He said,
Let's figure that out. Getting that put together in my head, I do those fast. I do it all the time, so I mean, I'll do it.
I don't, I mean,
so,
I paid Tricia Raskin as a coach for $1,000 and never took a call from her again.
if you've got anything going on.
But
there,
so good, so
I would be glad to find out about it
okay.
and write
That's
about
something
it.
we can do, and the other part of that is that these organizations want to promote what they're doing and bring people in. That's fine.
Just, I know, I just need to go and sit up. Definitely, please keep me in touch
some
with
money.
what you're doing.
All right, well, let's sit down and go
Oh,
over
the
that.
other
That's
thing,
the next
Also,
the other
the opennews.com, and communicators send all the local residents for free in their mailboxes. So
We can start creating social, okay, no, I gotta get it, okay, now I'm starting to get a plan. So let's just sit down and just map it out. let's map it out, what connects to what in terms of, you know, the show itself, production, connections, network, sponsors, you know, work that out.
We were at 61%.
What I do know is that the space is so noisy. There's a lot of content being produced, but there's not a lot. It's a new thing,
Email me and we'll find a time. Next week is gonna be just Zooming because I've got all sorts of crazy stuff that I'm.
It is, and then the end of the month is all the holidays.
But, do you have a card or something?
Oh, yes, I do.
Because I want your name and everything. And I would be glad. Are we following each other today?
Oh, are we? Are you doing this one?
I am doing this presentation.
Organizing, good. So what is this about? Is it community building or what is it?
That's a large part of it. How to get your online community to make a difference. We're going to go through a bunch of examples.
Good. And this is your nation builder.
This is my company. This is the company I work for.
Awesome. Well, I guess we have a little bit, 2 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm hoping we have a few people. I'm up against 2 of the best presentations this session, so.
Well, there's so many choices.
I know.
You can't take it personally. Hopefully they're putting things up on the internet.
Well, we are streaming today,
Oh, are you?
and I think
So
we're
what's
all
this?
being set to stream and to save, so.
Yeah, that's what I thought was because streaming can be also saved somewhere, and I assume it is.
Yep. Now, I was kind of hoping my husband was going to come in and play tech for me, but I guess he's not.
No, so I guess that's you, and you.
Yeah, he's been so busy playing tech for everybody else, he's not going to play tech for me.
Uh-oh. Well, then you have to make sure everything all, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you are going to come play tech for me.
Is this your husband?
Yes. I can't get down there to plug things in. I'm sorry.
What? Wait, why are you guys plugging down there?
For electricity.
Oh.
Electricity is good.
Okay, here, hang on. You got the cord?
It's down there already.
Oh. See, we don't need to go that low.
Oh, well, then you do it. Will you stay and be my presentation assistant?
You need a clicker.
No. Oh well, I'm not going to do it via PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. I kind of get busy and then I'm not busy. So maybe I
Okay.
can.
Well, if you're not here, I'll find somebody else.
See, this is the easy way. And you're like reaching down. I'm like, why is she reaching down?
Now, let me get this guy powered on.
Or as I walk into a room. There you go. You've got login screen.
Are you good?
Yeah, it's not connected to SkyTotal yet for some reason, so it's. Go take care of everybody else. I can do this, Bruce.
Okay, I figured that.
SkyTotal connected. Right. Now what? I'm hoping that there's at least a couple of people in here. If it's just you and I, we'll have an intimate conversation. And obviously, what I wanted to tell you is, I was trying to find a school to get kids more because a woman begged me after seeing my dog, and I didn't bring them with me because we were rushing out this morning. I'll get them to bring them. So you're gonna be here all week, right?
But yeah, I should be back tomorrow.
I'll show you the books. I'll give you the kids. Anyway, a woman begged me last Christmas to write something for children. My next book is going to be the cooking one. And she begged me. She said, please, the kids are so inactive, they're cutting back. I wrote the book, and I already have proof that it works. Because kids don't just want me to say, go outside. they want something to motivate them.
We
So
could
I wrote
organize it,
those.
actually, the kids could probably take the lead, organizing a reception for you. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Well, we will talk, I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
Candy.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just thrilled to have anybody. I'm up against so much great competition this hour that I'm like,
Well, it is, something I might address sort of at the end. So I work with environmental and wildlife groups, and this time of year, we get killed because everybody's thinking of people, and that's fine, I don't hate people or anything like that. But we find that this is not a time to message or to ask for things. For instance, we were, this time last.
What are you doing?
Did you do the recording?
oh shoot, I forgot to start it.
That's okay.
We were
That's what I'm
installing
doing.
owl habitat, so we were asking for materials and things like that, and it's like, no, between November.
We will talk about that. Just
And
timing is not
January?
one of the words I will use, but